I'm Amit Khandegar.
Is he audible? Yes.
Am I audible? Up to the last? Sorry? Little louder. Is it okay? Okay. So I work for Interbase DB uh, for around 7 years now. Uh, so so Robert had given you a brief know-how about what is logical replication in the first session. So let's go into the details more about that. So the agenda would be some details about the motivation behind logical decoding feature. Then we go towards the architecture and some more details and configuration, and then we will end up with use cases. Okay. So so we had started in 9.0 with logical with physical replication. So when we say physical replication, we used to just say replication. Okay, so the word physical replication is now coined because we also have logical replication. So motivation behind physical replication was in short, we wanted high availability. Okay, so so we already had uh, transaction logs for crash recovery, and now we wanted to have a high availability using the same transaction logs, because the transaction logs have all the information, all the data in there, and we want to just replicate the data onto some other server so that that server can take over the operation of the primary server if it fails. And then we added we started allowing read queries in the standby server. So we added some more transactional data in the transaction logs. Um, and this was done using a streaming replication, which we call, like, we just transfer the transaction logs over wire in a streaming network. So one side we have a val sender process, which is inbuilt. It's as a part of a PostgreSQL server. On the other side, there is a receiving end, which receives the val. So this was very efficient, and it was like a block level changes. We just copy the whatever changes are being done on the transaction log in the primary server. Disk level, we just byte by byte copy over the uh, hot standby server, and we just replay those operations at the standby server. So it is very efficient and very low overhead. It doesn't have any kind of any external process that has to do all this. Everything is inbuilt in PG. We already have this val, so we just reuse it. It was earlier just used for crash recovery purposes, but now we are using the same val for replication. So what is missing here is uh, we if we don't want all the information to be transferred, that we cannot do here. We have to replicate everything byte by byte. Because the copy is disk level, binary level, the standby server has to be the PostgreSQL same version. It cannot happen that if somebody wants to have a different server on a different PostgreSQL version, not even the higher version, higher major version, that's not possible. So if that's not possible, it's also not possible that the standby can be on different kind of server which is not PostgreSQL. So what we can do about this? If we want to handle all of these things, what comes to our help is logical replication. So we have kind of a logical replication even now, but that is trigger based. So let's take an example is Slowney. Sloany does this thing pretty good because because it actually is doing a logical replication here. So it has a so every insert or every database update has to have a copy of that into some other table. So earlier in physical replication we saw we just have a val file which is being transferred to another server and is recovering from that, and it's actually the standby is in a continuous recovery mode, whereas here every update is being logged into a log table. Okay, this is how Sloany does. So not just single table, all of the if we want to replicate all tables, we want to log all of these updates. And the main problem with this is the producer of this data on the primary server has to do that itself. There is no kind of another process which is doing it in parallel. So that is the main overhead. It's doing multiple writes. It's not just doing writes on a master table. It's also doing a write on transaction log, which is okay, which it has to do, but it's also doing writes on a log table. So in short, this is good because it has logical changes. It can selectively replicate something. It need not be all replication. It can just replicate a few tables, whichever we want. So there are a lot of setup things which we require to do all of these things. It can also replicate to a different DBMS because now we have extracted row level data, so we can do that. It's not a binary data, and because because the slave is not like a hot standby which is in a continuous recovery mode. It is a normal server which can take some writes also. So of course, if there's some conflict, it has to be handled externally. But yes, it can take writes. It can do insert updates. It can use temp tables, which cannot be done on the slave server. But the main thing is it has a lot of overhead of writes. Okay, the producer of the data should not have to do all of this. It should be the producer even doesn't require to know all of this, and we don't require all of this setup if we want to do the ideally. This is the ideal solution, which is not available in trigger-based replication. So what can we do? We want to have positive things about on trigger-based logical replication and physical replication. So we want to use the transaction log. We want to use val log, but we want to use logical replication with that data. So we don't want all external processes and we don't want to bother the producer to tell them to dump the data into some other file. So why not use the transaction log to do that? Okay, so the main motivation is we have the data in the transaction log, but what we need to do is extract the changes, convert those binary changes into row level changes. So this is the main motivation. Why do we want in our PG server? Of course, if we have logical changes, we have to apply them. So there should be somebody running at the slave server who is applying those changes. But that's another part. And so you can see there is the transaction log in the slave server is not being used to. There is some apply step there. So in summary, yeah. So there is no separate log file. There is no external setup. We want to do all this. We want to have a inbuilt support for doing this. We want to do a selective replication and all those benefits which Sloany has. So there can be some processing going on to convert those physical changes into logical changes. And also there is an Laplace step, so there are some overheads, but there are a lot of use cases to um, for this. So logical decoding feature has gone into 9.4, and what it does is so we have this val segment here which has all this lot of minute details about where that data has, what is the table, where is the table, which that data belongs to which table. All of these things are embedded in the val, but on the disk level. So we can't just read the table and the data. It's actually all byte by byte instructions, and the slave server has all of that being replayed. That is, the data is to be written on one particular offset on one particular file. That's how it does. So we want to, first of all, for extracting those logical data, we want to dig into the data. Where is the data situated in the val log? So we want to convert that offset, that file offsets, to the table. So we want to basically have some mapping that this file belongs to this table. The data is not actually interpreted until we know the table. So if we know the table, we know the table columns and the table types. So that's how we want to, and if you know the table types, you know the table, the type lengths, so that we can split the row data into column data. And we also want to know whether it's a DML operation or it's something else. That operation, there are a lot of other operations which are logged in the transaction log, like catalog updates, or page updates, or a lot of detailed information which we don't want. We only want to have DML operations. We want to, what all is of interest to us is to log all those changes in the user tables. That includes insert, update, and delete. So this is what logical decoding does in short. The input is a binary log, and the output is the row level data. Uh, so where is the decoder running? The decoder is running typically in a val center process. So what is the val center process is, whenever a standby, suppose in physical replication, a standby server is communicating with the primary server. It does that using a replication protocol, and when it first tries to connect to the primary spawns a val center process, which is just like another backend process which serves only these replication commands as against the SQL commands. So the decoder is running in the val center process, uh, and what it wants to do is, it doesn't want to restrict the output data format. Okay, so the idea here is, when we say we want to emit logical data, we want to, the next question is, what will be the format of that data? That data can be in any format, need not be in specific like row by row or whatever. So there is an output plugin library which it calls, the decoder calls a plugin API. The job of that plugin API is to filter that data, like selective replication. It wants to suppose not replicate a set of tables, that it will do. If it wants to analyze the data at source, that it can do, and it can output those data in any format. And the decoder also requires catalog access. Okay, because the the transaction log has it has to access those rows and first find out which table that rows belongs to. So it wants to open the catalog files and get the relation name and all those things. So it requires a catalog access for that. Uh, so like this slide is like a gives you a picture about where is the logical decoding running. Yeah. So it doesn't run at the receiving end. The idea is we want to give the output plugin a chance to decode and send it and do whatever it wants to do. So it need not be always logical replication. It can do something else with that data. Okay, so that's the key idea behind the design of logical decoding. So it has to emit some data, but it need not be any particular formatted data. So that's the flexibility part. And this actually goes very well with the culture of PostgreSQL extensibility. That somebody can write a plugin which it can maybe want to just store that, stream that data into some other queue and do something else on that queue. Okay. So, so up till now, any questions? Yeah.
You want to do them now or you want to do them later?
No, I'm okay with if somebody has any questions now also.
If this logical replication will support cascading replication?
Supported, sorry?
Cascading.
No, right now, I mean, right now this part is only available as a sending side. Okay, so there are tools being built on the receiver side also, like PG Logical. But the cascading part is right now it's not supported. In the core, the PostgreSQL core, it's just a decoding plugin, which is the sender part.
Okay, hi, I'm Avinash. So the question related to the logical replication is like you said, secondary can take writes. So do you mean that's a multi-master or a bidirectional kind of, or where
Yeah.
on the same table you can take writes, or?
Yeah, so the idea, yeah, the main motivation when the guys who were developing logical decoding, the main motivation was to do it for multi-master. So that was the main objective, so that we can actually produce a good system which can do multi-master efficiently. So yeah, so the receiver end can have writes, but we have to handle the conflicts which arise if we do some conflicting updates on the same table on both sides. So that part is external to this system. Okay. So what does the output plugin look like? It's a C library. It has to define some callback functions for specific events. So because the idea is that the decoder is going to send some data, and it's not going to decide any specific structure on that data, but it has to call some functions, some order of functions which can be defined by somebody else. So that's the idea behind this. So the transaction log can have like I said, all kinds of different operations, but the main operations which are required for doing this is begin, insert, update, delete, and commit. So these are the main operations which a plugin has to provide what to do on when it receives these operations from the val log. So there has been some plugins written to do this. So one plugin is test underscore decoding, which is already available in the PostgreSQL core as a contrib module. So the plugin has to be specified during the replication protocol. So somebody has to actually specify where that plugin needs to go, and this plugin goes in the /lib directory where the server loads this. So the begin CB, change CB, and commit CB are some of those callbacks. There are some other callbacks like startup and shutdown. So there are some tools to receive the data. Okay, so the decoder does the send part, but we want to test it. We want to play around with that. For that, the first action that needs to be done is creating something called as a replication slot. Okay, so replication slot, I will come to that later on, which was introduced again in 9.4 specifically for logical decoding. So once this slot is created, here you can see we have given the test decoding plugin here and some slot name, and it returns the position of the valve from where it can start the decoding. Now, so this is an example where just a simple modify operation. First we create a table, then insert and then update. So you can see there is a for create table. Okay, for create table it has logged a begin and commit. Okay, so each statement is creating a transaction. That's why we see a begin and commit, but we don't see the create table part. So we are not extracting any changes to the catalog. So there must be a PG class entry created here for create table, but we don't see here. So by the way, PG receive logical is another tool which acts like a it does whatever a standby is doing. It creates a connection to the primary server using a streaming replication protocol, and it keeps on receiving a streaming val data from the primary server. So whatever slot we had given here, we use that slot, replication slot, to connect to a primary server using a particular database. So the insert operation. Now you can see it has printed the insert one row 23, and the insert is actually inserting two rows, but it is showing this one record for 23 and another record for 24. So it is actually a kind of a transaction log, but all row level and table row levels. It's not and then update. Okay, so this begin and this commit relates to the insert. Okay, then again followed by a begin for update, and then it shows the update record. So even though it looks very simple, actually this data is not coming from the table, it's coming from the transaction log. So that is the key part here, that it's actually extracting the data from the binary logs. So there is another function called PG logical slot gate changes. Okay, so this is the SQL interface. So let me check whether I can do it full screen. Okay. Yeah, so now we saw in the earlier slide it was a receive logical. Now this is an SQL interface to do the same thing. So we can, like, this is again a testing part. It's not, these functions are not supposed to be run for any kind of real life, real world scenarios, but we can do a lot of playing around with this. So the data is the same, just that we use the different interface. So it has also printed here on the X side is the transaction IDs and the location of the position of the transaction logs. So replication slots, those were like I said introduced in PG 9.4 for especially for logical decoding, and those are mandatory. We have to use the replication slot, whereas for physical replication it was not needed. But those are actually uh, good to have for even for physical replication. So one way to look at this is it's like a pointer to a val position. Okay, uh, so why were these introduced was one thing was that the physical replication also relied on continuous archiving. So if we even if we have a stripping replication setup, uh, the standby can crash, and then the primary can delete those val logs. Then how do we continue the replication? So in that case, it can the standby can use the continuous archiving option. It has all the archives and it can just catch up with the transaction logs. Uh, but in logical replication, we can't rely on the files, the archive files, because it has all binary data. So it has to have replication using a streaming replication. So and then if it crashes and the server removes those logs from primary, there is no way around to continue with the catch up. So what it wants to do is it wants to have a guarantee that even if the standby crashes, when it restarts, it can continue with the earlier position of that val log. So replication slot, what it does is it has a persistent position of a at the val log. So when the server restarts, it can just use the same replication slot, and the val logs are there. The server won't delete those until the val logs are read by somebody. Just one thing to take care of is the PGX log will just get filled up until somebody reads it. So if there is just if you set up logical decoding and you don't have a receiver end somebody who's reading the data, those it will never go, and you may face a full disk issue. So because logical decoding is again using the infrastructure of replication, it's not like a from scratch feature written. It uses a lot of physical replication infrastructure. Okay, because one amongst that is it's using the streaming replication protocol between the primary and the standby. So you can see there is a lot of similarities in setting up logical replication. One amongst that is the val level, which should be logical. This is a new val level introduced for logical decoding. For physical replication, that used to be hot standby or archive. But logical is over and above. I mean, if you set logical, it has all of the information for hot standby, plus something more which is required for logical replication. And because it is using the same infrastructure, it has to set this max val centers, which is which the number of val centers corresponds to the number of parallel receivers who are receiving the data from primary. And this max replication slots, again this is going to be mandatory for logical replication, whereas it's not for physical. Again, like I said, val segments and archive mode and all of this stuff is not again necessary for logical replication. And then you do the listen addresses and the stuff for streaming replication, like pghba.conf. And also there is a support for synchronous commit. We can do that, but of course the receiver end should send a feedback to the primary so that the primary will not just wait for the feedback, because in synchronous commit we want the primary to even after commit it wants to make sure that the standby has also done its part. So that is supported, but again it's the receiving side who is responsible to do that. So if we compare with physical replication, uh, like just some replay about what we had said earlier. Physical replication replicates everything. Logical replication replicates only what it wants. I mean, large percentage of the val log would not be there in the logical log. It skips those vacuum and index writes, a lot of other things. Uh, so temp tables can be used on replica. Uh, it will replicate only DMLs. So all the DDLs, all the table definitions statements won't be logged. So there has to be in a multi-master case there has to be some support external to this to make sure that the tables are replicated. So uh, trigger events, event triggers is one thing which was used, which can be used in a multi-master setup to replicate the table modifications. So one another important thing is the logical decoding connection is per database. So when you are doing a replication, it's not actually that job is not doing a whole server, whole instance replication, but you can connect to a different database in parallel using a different replication slot. Another thing to note about is it doesn't record all the transactions which won't be committed. So it records only the successful transactions. The way it does is it waits for the commit record to come by, and only then it spits out all the records in the transaction. Uh, so this is just one sequence of operations records in the transaction log. So begin by delete and by something else again by update. So actually, if you see, the decoder doesn't give all those things to the output plugin. It sends all of these. It first decodes them, and it sends those to a reorder buffer, which is keeping track of all those operations, but it's not going to emit those until it receives a commit val segment. Another part we can see here is this transaction log has some row operations called as speculative insert. These are basically used. One use case of this is when we have a insert conflict, and we want to update that existing rows if there is uh, unique constraint violation. So it just updates that row that this feature was added, and this uses this speculative insert so that it doesn't actually confirm the insert, but it has to follow this heap confirm afterwards. Only then it can. So all of this, ultimately we don't want these records. We just want the final record. So all of this part is being done by a reorder buffer module. And there are a lot of other operations like B-tree ID and other operations which it just doesn't, it just ignores those records. So how many minutes we have remaining? 15, 10 minutes. So we also have something called as historical snapshots. So basically the idea is because it wants to open the catalog relations which were actually existing when that val record was inserted. That's the reason we want to have some kind of historical knowledge of how that PG class, how that table definition looked when that transaction log was created. Without that, we cannot exactly parse that into a raw data. That's why these snapshot, different kinds of catalog snapshots were introduced. So we already have some plugins developed by some lot of people in the community. So val2 JSON decodes it into a JSON format. Test decoding is already there in the PostgreSQL bundled with PostgreSQL. So you can start with this plugin to know how we can do things on that. Decoder buffs is another kind of thing. PG logical output is a plugin bundled with PG logical utility, which is actually there is a lot of work going on PG logical utility in the community to have a complete out of the box solution for logical replication. Decoder buffs is one. It just it's only for some specific protocol buffer format. So some kind of which Google has developed some format. So another feature which was introduced for logical decoding was table level extra information in the table to know what that update has, which row the update has updated. Okay, so if we basically when we have an update entry, we want to update a particular row at the secondary server, but we don't know which row we are updating. So we want to know either the unique key which was used to update this. Okay, so if there is a unique key, we know that this row was updated. So there is an extra information that can be logged in the transaction log. So you just set either of these options in the alter table. Now either full means you want to insert the complete old row. Okay, using index means you just want to specify those particular index columns which cover that index. And nothing means just don't include the no row, which is not much useful. And the default is the primary key columns. So here we can see that it has inserted the ID column here, that is the old key. So somebody can even write our own application to do a lot of stuff, lot of not just replication. So main thing is to write a output plugin and the receiver side. Then the receiver initiates the connection with the primary, and then there is a set of commands to in the replication protocol. There is a set of commands to actually create a replication slot and then start using replication. And there is also provision to get a initial snapshot to dump the initial core. The create replication slot returns a particular snapshot identifier. And then the val sender has to send the streaming val to receiver using the copy both protocol, and then the receiver has to apply those changes. So the primary use case for which it had all started was having a multi-master setup. So we already have kind of a multi-master. We can do the multi-master setup using triggers. Maybe Slonie can support multi-master triggers, but the main problem in that was overhead, lot of overhead like we discussed. So when we have already, now because we have the logical decoding feature, we can do all of this using, instead of triggers, we can do all of this using the transaction logs. So and also we can support multi-directional, bidirectional transfer of, so the primary can send its own data to the secondary can send to the other server can send its own changes to the primary, which was actually not possible in physical replication because it was all binary data. We cannot just do that. The standby was just recovering using, it was always in a continuous recovery mode, which is not possible. And the multi-master setup uh, is always ideal for geographically dispersed locations. Okay, but it actually requires some conflict resolution, like I said, which is not in the scope of logical decoding. So, so BDR was the project which is actually doing a lot of work on this, and so it uses at the server, the secondary side, it uses its own. The receiver is inbuilt in the server, so there are some changes in the PostgreSQL server which they do, and that's why the apply process is also fast, not just the sending process. And Enterprise DB XDB also has started using the log-based, the logical decoding feature to in its existing MMR setup. So it's new in 6.0. And also in single master also we can do all of this. PG logical is again a standalone utility which is a lot of work has been going on to get it included in the bundled in as part of PostgreSQL. So there are a lot of use cases like we have seen, the plugin can do anything, right? It can just emit in any format, and whenever it want, it can just filter anything. So we can do lot of stuff. So the easiest thing is auditing. Just audit all those logs, uh, and we can do a lot of data analysis at source. We need not copy all of that stuff and do something. We, Whenever we do something, some data analysis at the location where the data is there, it is always beneficial. So the plugin can do a lot of analysis and then send something. Event sourcing is actually being, there's a real world example who is there is some project going on called as bottled water, which is actually using the logical decoding feature to for something which is not logical replication. It's actually queuing those events into a queue, and it has all these transactional sequences. And it is the main thing they wanted was to have the exact uh, rows in commit order, which are not like somebody is doing multiple inserts and those are tracked in different order. They have all that transactionally consistent data, and somebody else can a lot of those consumers can do whatever it want to do. So we can have remote triggers kind of thing. So somebody is writing a table and we want to, by reading the values, we can actually do the insert into some other table by this plugin also. So, cache synchronization, whatever data we want to cache into something else. So there are a lot of other things we can do, not just logical replication. Uh, we can even do a table replication, not just a complete replication. We can do kind of incremental aggregation where we can just keep on getting the table rows, table columns, and just keep on adding those values incrementally into aggregate function and then pass it along. Okay, so yeah, so are there any questions?
Probably we have
Time for just one question quickly, if there's any.
The configuration has to be double, right? Like how you are configuring the primary to secondary. So you need to make literally a lot of configuration to, right? Like primary to, or the first primary to secondary and secondary to primary again if you want to do bidirectional.
Yeah, for multi-master setup, we need to do all of this stuff externally. So it's not like this feature doesn't do that. Okay, but that feature is only to allow all of this setup to be done. Okay,
Okay.
I think he has some question. You want to have?
So changes like schema changes to the table, is that allowed?
Yeah, so the schema changes to the table has to be handled externally. So right now we don't have any support for doing any DDL changes. So there has to be some external to do that. So event triggers are can be used to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very